Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Voyager Scholarship Information Session today. My name is Shay Masterson with the Office of National Scholarships Advisement here at ASU. And here's an overview of what we'll be going over in today's session. So we're going to start with some brief intros and an overview of the Office of National Scholarships Advisement, or ONSA. And then we'll talk about the background and benefits of the Voyager Scholarship specifically, as well as the eligibility. So first talk about kind of why you would want to apply for the Voyager Scholarship, then talk about who's eligible and how you actually apply. And we'll wrap up with some next steps and resources. So in terms of introductions, who's in the room? Again, my name is Shay Masterson. I am one of several people in the Office of National Scholarships Advisement who is here at ASU to support you all in your pursuit of national and international awards, Voyager being one of them. So just to give you a basic idea of who we are and what we do in case this is the first kind of event or interaction you've ever had with our office. We advise ASU students and alumni on dozens of different nationally or internationally competitive awards. These are not your ASU scholarships. These are awards that can help you do things like study abroad, learn a language, do research, pursue graduate school, any number of things that can further advance whatever your academic and professional goals are in really meaningful ways beyond just the classroom. Those are the types of awards we advise on, and the advice we provide is general information like we'll cover today, but then we also give guidance and feedback through the entire application process of any of those specific awards that we focus on. So if you do choose to apply for Voyager or any of the other dozens of awards our office advises on, then we would give you support through that entire application process, including if there were any interview components to it. I don't believe there is for Voyager unless they change something this cycle, but if you do apply for something else that requires an interview, we would also help you prepare for that interview. So answering your questions, reading your essays, taking a look at your video submissions, if that's a component of it. We do any and all of that to help you put forth your strongest application possible for these nationally and internationally competitive awards. What you see on the screen right now is what we call our Wall of Fame. This particular one is located on the Tempe campus in Honors Hall in the Tempe campus, and it is photos of ASU students and alumni who have won a variety of the awards that we advise on over the past many years. So if you ultimately become a Voyager or, any of the other recipient of any of the other awards we advise on, you too could end up on this Wall of Fame. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our guest today, who is one of our Wall of Famers, and that's Sage Fur Johnson. We're going to hear more from her in a little bit, but do you want to just introduce yourself really quick to the group?
Yeah, my name is Sage. I'm a third-year student at ASU in Barrett studying social work, criminology, and criminal justice. And as Shay mentioned, I'm a junior Voyager this year.
Right, great. Thank you so much, Sage. So we're going to hear directly from a Voyager about what the experience has been like in the program as well as applying here today. So that just gives you a basic understanding of who's here to support you today before we jump into the specifics on the Voyager program. So the Voyager Scholarship Program was established only a few years ago. It's a really, in terms of these kinds of awards, it's a pretty new program itself. So back in 2022, so just 3 years ago, the Obama Foundation, led by the Obamas, along with a very generous financial investment from the co-founder and CEO of Airbnb, Brian Chesky, established the Voyager Scholarship Program. Sometimes you might hear it referred to as the Obama Scholarship, not to be confused with the ASU Obama Scholarship. Those are two very different programs. But I have heard students refer to this program as the Obama Scholarship as well, but it is completely different than the one that you might have through ASU already. So they established this award really as an effort to support students who wanted to make a change in the world in the future, so do good things in their professional pursuits, and wanted to help them be able to pursue their degree and have some kind of professional experience during their degree program. Um, without any of the added financial barriers of both pursuing their degree and getting that additional professional experience while still an undergrad. So that's kind of a little bit of the background on why and when this program was established. And since then, there have been three cohorts of Voyager scholarships, stages from the most recent cohort. And you all will be applying for, if you do decide to apply this year, you'll be applying to be a part of the fourth cohort of the Voyager Scholarship Program. So the way in which they try to achieve this goal of helping students to pursue their degree and gain a professional experience to help further, their career goals and benefiting the greater good in the future is in a few different ways. This is a very robust scholarship program. Some, are not as generous in terms of the financial support. Some don't provide the multiple components that the Voyager Scholarship does. So we're going to talk a little bit about what each of those components are. So first and foremost, there is the financial component. So it's a very generous scholarship, especially for ASU students, since we do have, in terms of four-year universities, relatively affordable programs. So the scholarship financial benefit of Voyager is up to $50,000 in funding for your remaining 2 years of undergraduate studies. So it's specifically for undergraduate studies, and that $50,000 is split between 2 years. Now it's up to $50,000 because not every Voyager will need $50,000 over the next 2 years. So in a given year, you might receive less if your need is less for that year. So how they kind of look at it as, given all of your other free financial aid, so scholarships and grants that you do not have to repay in the future, what is your unmet need for your remaining academic expenses for the years? And anything up to that $50,000 for the next 2 years is what they would cover. This can potentially include a semester abroad program, but there are some further stipulations about that. So just know that if you are planning to spend a semester during junior or senior year abroad, the up to $50,000 can be applied towards covering some of those expenses as well. But again, there's additional stipulations to that. In addition to this very generous financial benefit, they also require and support their recipients to go on what they call the summer voyage. That's why it's the Voyager Scholarship. So over the summer between your junior and senior year, they expect every recipient to do some kind of professional experience for a minimum of 6 weeks over the summer, pretty much anywhere in the world, whether that's somewhere else in the United States besides where you currently live or in another country. This can be a research experience, it can be an internship, it can be a study abroad experience, it can be a volunteer experience, it can be a combination of different shorter experiences that you combine into kind of one summer voyage. So there's a lot of flexibility for you to design what that voyage is going to look like for you. And then once it's approved, they provide you with a $10,000 stipend to cover your expenses of going to and living in a different place for that summer. And then they also provide you with a stipend for Airbnb housing in the location in which you will be for the summer. Okay. So then as long as your housing is with Airbnb, and within the stipend that they provide for that, that $10,000 doesn't have to go to your housing. It can go towards everything else for the summer. Um, in addition, they have their fall summit every year, which is typically for their first year Voyagers, which would be your junior year. And this is a leadership conference where they bring together all of the Voyagers for that cycle, as well as public service leaders. I know some past Voyagers have even had the chance to meet President Obama during this summit. And so this is like a leadership development and networking conference where they bring all of the Voyagers together. And that is expenses covered for you as a participant. So it's not like you have to pay for, airfare or hotel to be able to participate in this. They also cover the expenses associated with that. And if that weren't all enough, in addition, as a Voyager, you receive ongoing leadership development while you're in the program. So this happens primarily virtually, besides the fall summit and the summer voyage, because the Voyagers are from all over the country, right? So they'll have ongoing leadership development workshops that you participate in, especially during that first year to help you build towards and design your summer voyage. You also receive ongoing mentorship. And then once you are done with the Voyager program, as well as your bachelor's degree, for the next 10 years after you graduate, you'll receive $2,000 a year in Airbnb credits to be used anywhere at any Airbnb of your choosing. So it also will help you to continue to travel even after you've graduated from your bachelor's degree program. So those are the varied and robust and very generous benefits of the Voyager Scholarship Program. And in case that wasn't enough to convince you, I'm going to pass it over to Sage now so she can share a little bit more about her experience as a Voyager, kind of why she applied and what it's been like so far in the program. So, Sage?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for having me, Shay. Well, I applied to the Voyager for a few couple reasons. I think one of them to note, if I'm gonna be honest, is the financial aspect. As Shay will go into later, this is one of the scholarships that they advise on that you have to demonstrate financial needs. So I think that was something that was definitely intriguing to me. But I think there were a few other reasons. One, I think, was being connected to like-minded public service individuals. I think just being in this space and this experience so far has been really eye-opening, very inspiring to meet the other Voyagers and kind of learn from their personal experiences, their public service passions, etc. And then the third reason I applied is I think it was really helpful for me to self-reflect on what I guess, sorry, I got distracted when I saw a message in the chat. It was really helpful for me to self-reflect on my goals as well as like my academic goals for the future and my career goals. I think the kind of extensive application really forces you to re-examine your values and why you want to do what you want to do. And I think that's helpful no matter if you get the scholarship or not. It's helpful to know where you want to go and why. And I guess going on to what my future goals are, I really am interested in victim advocacy and eventually hopefully working at the federal level with either the U.S. Attorney's Office or the FBI because they prosecute and investigate two specific federal crimes that I'm interested in providing direct services to victims and survivors of those crimes. But I know like getting there is I have to do a lot. Like I have to get a graduate degree and I have to have experience at the local and state levels before I can apply to those positions. But I guess that goes into what I'm thinking about doing for my summer voyage because I'm looking at federal internships within victim services And things are kind of up in the air right now with the federal hiring freezes and such. But because my goals were to work for the government, I am going to be staying domestically. But a lot of the other people in my cohorts are looking to go abroad, or kind of as Shay mentioned, there you can really make the summer voyage what you want it to be. There's so many different options of what to do that I think is very helpful to make it an individualized experience to meet your needs. And I know a lot of people in my cohort are going abroad to basically every continent other than Antarctica, or they're splitting time in the US and abroad, or doing a combination of volunteering, research, etc., whatever, all of the ideas that the pathways that Shay mentioned. And I guess just touching on a little bit of my experience within the program and the fall summit, I talked a little bit about, meeting the other Voyagers. I think this program really connects you to have kind of professional relationships with people, other people in the cohort who are doing really inspiring and great public service work that may be in the same interest that you have, or maybe there are some intersecting work between you and another person, as well as I've been able to, forge personal relationships with a number of people, and that's been great as well. Especially, I've been fortunate enough to have another ASU Voyager in my year, Sierra, who is in that picture, and she's really so lovely, and I've really enjoyed getting to know her and develop a friendship with her through this program. I probably wouldn't have known who she is without this program, which also, I guess, kind of leads me to talk a little bit about your experience when you apply. Like, you'll have the connection through your cohort, but ASU has, a long line of also Voyagers from one, at least one from each year. So I think like you'll be able to lean on us for support in any questions that you have and such like that. I think that's really helpful. And then my experience at the fall summit was really awesome. I think it was I really don't know how to put into words, but it was really great, you know, meeting all of the other Voyagers in the co-op for the first time in person, but also there were a lot of other public service leaders from Chicago, as well as the Obama Foundation has a few other scholarships or programs for graduate students and young professionals. So we got to meet people from those cohorts. And then we also did get a private Q&A session with former President Obama and CEO of Airbnb, Brian Chesky. So that was really memorable as well. And I think the Fall Summit, just being able to connect with other people, learn their values and their experiences, has just been helpful to me personally as well as professionally.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sage. I do want to plug, as we go through this presentation, if you do have questions, please feel free to put them into the chat as they come to you. If it's something that we're going to be addressing specifically in the slides already, then I'll hold off a moment until we answer the question, but we will make sure to get all of those questions answered, whether it be during the presentation or after it. Okay. So, and Sage will stick around a little bit to share a little bit more as well. And in case you missed it amidst what she just told you all about her experience, and what you can see on the screen is there are 2 Sun Devils that are part of the last cohort who was selected for the Voyager program. They are both current juniors at ASU, so they're still around at ASU, and both Sage and Sierra are, available to support you through the process as well. If you have more questions about, like what the program is like or what the application was like in the future. And then last year in the second cohort of Voyager, we did have another student from ASU selected. So Jessica Lopez is currently in her senior year at ASU. And then in the inaugural cohort, there were two ASU students selected then as well. So in just 3 years, there's already 5 ASU Voyagers, which is pretty significant considering that only 100 are selected each year from across the country from all different public and private universities. So that all sounded really great to you, which it probably did because you're still on the Zoom. This is who is eligible. So in order to apply for the scholarship in the current year, you do have to be considered a sophomore. Now, what that means for Voyager, because it does vary by different scholarship programs. So really what Voyager is looking for is for you to have 2 years of full-time study remaining in your undergraduate degree after this year. Okay. So if, regardless of how long you've been in school so far, if you will be in school for the 2025, 2026, and the 2026, 2027 school year, and you will be enrolled full time for both of those years, and then you'll be graduating in 2027, right? Then that is how they would qualify you as a sophomore for the Voyager program, right? In addition, they're also looking for those who do have a demonstrated financial need. So they say they don't give an exact cutoff of what that means, but they do say they use a similar formula to FAFSA in considering the financial need. There's also a question where you don't have to talk about explicitly your financial need necessarily, but it does ask for your personal circumstances that have led to any challenges or barriers to completing your academic experience. So that is somewhere where you could give a further explanation to why you have a financial need, especially if it doesn't seem like you would based on your financial details. But they are looking for folks that do have, without a scholarship like this one, would have to take out further loans to finish their degree program. Okay. You also do have to have a minimum 3-point GPA currently. If you're a transfer student, then that would be, and this is like your first semester at ASU, as long as you're graduating in 2027 and will be enrolled full-time until then, you'd still be eligible. They will look at your GPA from your previous institution, okay? So a minimum 3-point GPA, there's not really any exceptions to that. This particular program is open to U.S. citizens, U.S. nationals, U.S. permanent residents, and those with DACA status, the deferred action status, okay? So any and all of these citizenship statuses are eligible. It is not open to international students who are citizens of other countries though, okay? And not citizens of the U.S. If you have dual citizenship, that's okay. And then the the big one that is beyond just kind of the basics, checking the box, right, is what they call an ongoing commitment to public service. So you notice that Sage mentioned kind of public service, like-minded folks that are interested in public service, that have public service goals. And she talked about government service for her own goal, but they really are looking for students who already have a demonstrated commitment to serving others and that want to pursue a career that is in some way of service to others. So that can mean different things to different folks and for different scholarship programs. It does not have to be government service like Sage wants to go into. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. But here's really how Voyager defines what they mean by that kind of idea of public service. So they say that a broad range of paths that advance greater societal good. So if in your future career, you really want to focus on doing something that advances the greater societal good in some way in whatever field you've chosen to go into, that's what they're looking for. They do say that the work most frequently occurs through nonprofit or government sectors. Those are what is traditionally known as the public service sector, is if you're going to work in a nonprofit or government. Whether government means elected official or like employee, it doesn't matter there. But for Voyager, they also look at folks who want to go into the arts, who want to go into entrepreneurship, or even corporate work, as long as the work that you want to do in those fields has something to do with social responsibility, right? Impacting change for the better for the people in your community, for the people affected by whatever that kind of thing focuses on, by, Americans at large, by society at large, whatever the case is, that's what they're really looking for. And not only do they want that to be part of your driving path for your future career, but they also want to see that in the things that you're doing now, it's clear that being of service to others is important to you. Okay. So you can't just say, yeah, yeah, yeah. In the future, I really want to do good for other people, but I haven't really done anything like that so far. They do want to see that you've already been doing some kinds of activities that really show that you are interested in helping others in some way. Okay. Doesn't have to be robust activities already directly involved in the issue or field that you want to go into, but definitely that you're already showing that you are committed to being of service to others in some way, volunteering, interning, supporting extracurricular activities, whatever the case may be. So that's what they're looking for in terms of eligibility. So in terms of the application, there's going to be kind of the basics, the demographic information that is resonant with most applications you've ever filled out, whether that be for school, another scholarship, an internship, or job. They typically ask for some basic demographic information. There's also going to be an academic section where it's going to ask about your academic, both current at ASU and previously your academics. You're also going to have to upload unofficial transcripts in the academic section. Okay. They give very specific directions of how to do that. And it is important that you follow those directions precisely, because if you upload transcripts and it's not done by their precise directions, then it can look like your application is complete, but it actually wouldn't be complete for them to consider it. Okay. And that goes for all parts of the application, but I just wanted to point that out because I know there's been some questions from applicants about the transcripts specifically in the past. They do accept unofficial transcripts. So for your ASU transcripts, that can be downloaded right from your My ASU account. You don't have to get the official copy with the ASU seal from the registrar. You don't have to pay for it or anything like that. You can just download it directly at My ASU at any time. Then they don't ask for a resume for the application, but they do have an experience section where they're going to outline different things that probably would be on your resume, like job and internship experience, volunteer experience, extracurricular clubs and organizations that you've been involved in. So it's going to have a portion where you fill out all of that information, where you input all of that information. And again, it's important to follow the precise directions that they give for how to input all of that great experience that you've had. And then there's the financial component. So as Sage mentioned, and as I just mentioned, this is for those with a demonstrated financial need. So there is a financial section where you're going to have to input information about your finances and your parents or legal guardians or spouse if you're dependents of others, right? They do say that you can use the current FAFSA, or if you haven't done the current FAFSA, the previous FAFSA to input all of that information. They're not going to look at your FAFSA, but you can use that summary from the FAFSA to input all of that information. If you have not completed a FAFSA, that's okay. You can still do this, but you're going to have to collect that information and make sure you have it from elsewhere. Okay. That's all the relatively easy part of the application. Now for the hard part, the part that's going to take the most time. So there are multiple short and long essays that are included in this application. Now, I say short and long because that's what they call them. Short and long are relative terms. So um, even the long essays are a maximum of 250 words. So you're really looking at 1 to 2 paragraphs at most for any of these individual responses. So while there are multiple questions that you will have to write out responses for, none of them are going to be all that long. Okay, so there's not like one long personal statement like there are for a lot of applications, but it's multiple shorter responses that for each one they're asking you to respond to something very specific. In general, these are looking at you to share about your future goals. So they want to hear about what field you've chosen or what issue it is that you want to address in your future career. It's okay if you don't know exactly the like title that you want to hold at the specific agency or organization or company that you want to work at. But to be able to know in general, this is kind of the field or the issue that I want to focus on in my future career, that's what they're looking for you to share with them. Um, they also want to hear, based on what field or issue you want to focus on in your future, what are your plans for, like, say, 1 year after you graduate and 5 years after you graduate? In your ideal world, what would you be doing 1 year and 5 years post graduation in regards to pursuing your work in this field or addressing this issue? And then in terms of future goals, they do want to hear, while you will design your summer voyage during that first year in the program. So you don't have to have something 100% solidified in terms of your summer voyage. They do want to hear about what your ideas are for what you might do during your summer voyage, where you might go in the world for your summer voyage, and why you would want to go there, or what kind of experience you would want to get there to help build towards that future career that you see for yourself. Okay, so those are the questions that, those are the things that the questions regarding your future goals really focus on. Then there's some questions that want to hear about some past experiences that you've had. So they ask specifically about an experience you've had and in which you have created some kind of positive change for your community, for a particular issue. It can be anything academic, professional, not associated with school in any way, that's okay, but some way in which you've worked towards and created some kind of positive change for others. They also want to hear about a time in which, based on the situation you were in, your perspective was changed in some way, right? So you thought one thing, then you had this experience, and you thought slightly different or completely different after that experience. And then they want to hear about a recent challenge or a failure that you've had. Um, for all three of these, oftentimes, students will spend a lot of time talking about the situation to provide that context. And that's okay. The reader does want to understand the basics of the situation, but the bulk of these three responses should be focused on what actions you took in that situation and what the ultimate result was in that situation. Okay. So briefly give them the context, and then spend more time talking about what you did and what the ultimate outcome was in each of these examples. And then last but not least, they have a personal circumstances question where they want you to share with them circumstances in your life, like I said, mentioned before, that have led to or been a part of your challenges or barriers to kind of completing your education so far, completing it without the financial burden of loans and things like that. Okay. Um, so those are the essays. That's what you will spend the bulk of your time working on to complete this application. In addition, this particular program has a video requirement as well. So they ask you to submit, in addition to those written responses, they want a video where you discuss your motivations for going into the field that you've chosen or addressing the issue that you've chosen for your future career. Um, and they want to hear about what is the connection between your own leadership values with your past experiences and your future goals. So, kind of taking that through line from what you've done in the past and what you want to do in the future, and how your individual leadership values have really been the guiding force in that. And they also want to hear about why you're applying for Voyager. How do you see the Voyager program being beneficial to you in pursuing what your goals are for the future? This video is a brief video. They are not expecting you to be videographers. They are not expecting you to be trained actors and being able to, say 2 minutes of dialogue uninterrupted perfectly with no slip ups. They're not expecting some kind of grand background. They're not expecting anything like that. They really want to see you talking to the camera for about 2 minutes or less about your interests, the reason you're pursuing what you want to pursue, how your values will inform your future goals, and how Voyager fits into your overall plans. Okay. It can be helpful to write out maybe like an outline of what you want to say or some bullet points of what you want to say beforehand, but you do not need to have a script for this. Okay. They want to get a sense of who you are on a genuine level. And they do give, just like with the other components, they do give some explicit parameters for the video. So make sure you follow those directions to a T. All right, Sage, would you like to share any insights or suggestions about the application process?
Yeah, I think one of the main things is to lean on the resources here you have at ASU, especially Shay and ONSA. They really know how to help you with your applications. I think for me personally, one of my hardest, I guess, things about my essays was keeping to that word limit and making sure that I was getting across the point that I wanted to in that short period. So I think really participating in working with the advisors at ONSA and kind of making sure that you're understanding what their feedback is and then also taking into account um, what they're saying. But I think at the same time, uh, really listening to your heart and staying true to what you want to do. I think the folks at ONSA are really great at helping their students and advising on these essays and really great at editing and revising to make your paragraphs look really good, but they don't really know you that well. Like you've only been working them for with them for like 5 weeks. So you want to make sure that within these revisions that you're still showing off your genuine and your authentic self. And I think that maybe seeing if you have like a sibling or a really close friend or a parent look over that to make sure that in your final versions, like it does sound like you because they know you really well is something that would be helpful. And I think adding on to what Shay said about the the video, I think yeah, definitely like kind of doing an outline or doing a few bullet points. That's what I did bullet points and I just practiced like once or twice, not really too many times because when I wanted to record it, I didn't want it to seem too rehearsed, too robotic, because I wanted to show off, make sure that I was genuinely showing like my interests and my motivations without, I guess, yeah, without making it too rehearsed. I guess that yeah, those would be my two advice points. But I think if I have something later, I might jump in.
Thank you for that, Sage. I also have a follow-up question, and I promise I didn't pay her to say that either, um, about working with our office and our advisors. So how long would you say um, you kind of worked on your essays and video before you submitted?
Yeah, well, I had a really great relationship with one of my Barrett professors who, when Shay came to the West Campus and was talking with my Barrett professor, she kind of let me know about this scholarship. And I think it was like 5 or 6 weeks before the deadline. I know this year they opened it up and they're closing it a little bit later to give more of a window to work on your application. But I definitely went through a few good versions. What I think like for me personally, I my first draft I was able to kind of get all the points that I wanted to, and I did have to rewrite like one or two of them, but for the most part I had the idea there, and I think that was helpful going forward. So I didn't have to spend as much time after my first round of revisions to completely come up with something new and write about something different for the application, but I think it is something that is in personalized to you and your experiences and your strength as a writer. But it is completely normal to go into this and spend quite a bit of time or even have a bunch of revisions because it's just a unique experience to you.
Yeah, and each of these is very brief, right? So being able to say everything you want to say within the minimal allotted word count can be challenging, right? And also with any application where there's multiple different written responses, it can also sometimes be hard, like to navigate, well, where should I talk about this here or here? And am I being too repetitive in what I'm talking about? And those kinds of things. So that's all stuff that we can support with. And we always advise to have, like, we're a support to you, but we should ideally not be the only support to you as you work on this application. So definitely having, if you have a professor or an advisor, that you trust and that is willing and able to support you and look over materials or give you some feedback or even just be your cheerleader a little bit through the process, that's great. If you have anybody in your own life that you trust and can support you by taking a look over your materials, like Sage suggested, we definitely recommend that. And through the writing process, as we're giving feedback, we try to always say, and we hope you hear it, this is our suggestions, right? It's your application, it's your life, right? We can never tell you explicitly, like, do this, don't do this, right? We're just giving you our best guidance based on what we know the readers are looking for. You know yourself and your life best. So definitely take whatever feedback you get from ourselves or anybody else that you're getting feedback through the process of applying, and do what makes the most sense for you and stays true to who you are and your journey. Okay. So just kind of want to reiterate those things that Sage shared. Um, so through all of these application materials, what they're really looking for is through your previous experience and through your written responses and through their video, they're really looking for some particular like qualities or traits. One is they do want to see folks who have an interest in and or experience building bridges between communities, building bridges between folks who have a difference of opinions or views, building bridges between people on one side and the other, right? So bringing folks together is something that they're looking for, both in terms of your capacity to do that and your interest in doing it in the future. They really are, again, looking for that commitment to public service. So, already having some volunteer experience, already having some internship or job experience in which you were um, working towards some kind of issue for the greater good, whether that be in government work or nonprofit work or not. Okay. Um, they really are looking for folks who have a certain level of curiosity about the world around them, curiosity about the issues that prevail in today's society, curiosity about finding solutions to those problems, curiosity about exploring your own self. So, curiosity is one of the things that they're looking for to come through those application materials as well, and an interest to be collaborative with others. So, Sage mentioned multiple times this network of other Voyagers, not just her cohort, but the previous cohorts of Voyagers, this network of other folks who are doing other programs through the Obama Foundation, right? So, they are interested in seeing individuals who are open to and wanting to collaborate with others, and through the Voyager program is one way that you can kind of build that collaboration. And further driving that home is they want individuals who are have like a real willingness and interest in learning from others and sharing with others. So working with others to find solutions, right? Working with others to implement change, but also working with others to learn from them and share their own experience with them. That is an integral part of the Voyager experience. It's not just a scholarship program. Yes, it's very generous. Yes, they are looking for folks who have a demonstrated financial need, but that's not the only benefit of it, right? They are wanting people to build this larger network of folks to support each other, not just the program, but in the future. And so that willingness and openness to learning and sharing from others is really vital to getting the most out of the program that you can. So these are the things, these are the highlights that they're really looking for through those application materials. So the application is open now. It's been open for a couple weeks. It's due April 1st. So we're about 6 to 7 weeks out from the deadline. So you're right in that sweet spot of being able to start your application in the next week or so and really have ample time to work through all of the components of it um, in a very mindful way before you submit. After the deadline, finalists will be notified in May. Finalist does not mean you win the scholarship. Finalist is just the next stage of the selection. And then in July, so in May, you'll know whether you're moving forward in the competition or not. And then in July is when you'll be notified if you've actually been selected as one of the 100 Voyagers for the next cohort. So they do plan to select 100 Voyagers just as they have for the previous 3 years. So in July is when you'll find out. And then the initial funds typically get dispersed around the start of the fall semester. They do get dispersed to your university. And then that's when you'll begin some virtual programming with the Obama Foundation. And then later on in the fall, I know this year it was over fall break or over winter break, excuse me, is when you'll come together for that in-person fall summit where you get to actually meet face to face with the other Voyagers and with some other public service leaders. Maybe y'all be lucky enough to also get to meet President Obama and CEO Chesky as well. I can't guarantee that. I'm not a part of the Obama Foundation. I don't know what's planned for that, but hopefully that might be a part as well. And then you'll go forward and plan your summer voyage for not this coming summer, but next summer. Summer 2026 is when you'll do your summer voyage. All right. So as you move forward, I would recommend opening an application sooner rather than later. You don't have to be ready to submit everything when you open the application. You can create the account, view all of the different sections, and come back to it. I recommend you spending some time reflecting on your own experiences so far and your future goals academically and professionally. And when you're ready, begin working on those essays and video. Okay. For the prompts, you do need to create I gave you the basics of what they're covering, but for the exact prompts and maximum character count or word count, excuse me, and all of that, you will need to open the application. Um, Once you've kind of begun working on the application, you can schedule a Voyager appointment with our office. So to get guidance and feedback on your application materials, you can go to our website, onsa.asu.edu, which is on the screen, or you can follow the QR code that's on the screen. And from our website, there's a make an appointment button, and you'll be able to select a Voyager appointment specifically to go over this application. Whether you're needing general guidance or wanting feedback on what you've written so far, you can schedule a Voyager appointment. Sage, I know we had multiple appointments last spring, right? It wasn't just one and done. So I'm available to meet with you as much as you need over the next month and a half or so as you work on this application. And if you have any other questions that come up along the way, you're also welcome to reach out to me directly. My email is on the screen, shay.masterson@asu.edu. I didn't see any other questions come through the chat, but I will stick around for just a few moments to answer any questions. But I do want to say thank you to Sage for being generous enough to share her time and insight with us today. So thank you so much, Sage.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you again, for supporting me on my own application last year.
I will say it again. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It was an absolute pleasure to help you through that process. And I look forward to continuing to hear about what you do for your summer voyage and as you move forward. I'll stick around for one more minute, and if there's no other questions, then I will go ahead and close down the Zoom. Um, so the question is if
Hello?
you're, oh, yep, hello.
Can you email the barcode information for people that are like not anywhere to save it
So the
at home?
entire recording and slides will all be sent out
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
later this week.
Thank
Yep.
you.
And then the question is, if attending ASU online, would we select the digital immersion option? Because there's multiple options listed for ASU, and I'm not sure what it would fall under for the institution. So if you're seeing a digital immersion option, then yes, I would go ahead and select that if you're an ASU online student. And if you have further questions like that, that is also something that we could always discuss in an appointment or via email too, if something else arises like that. Any other questions? Thank you all so much. You have a wonderful rest of your day.